Good morning, and thank you, President Kress, trustees, faculty, distinguished guests, graduating students, your friends, and your families. What an honor it is for me to be here with you. 35 years ago this month, my wife Robin and I sat where you sit today. And first of all, what I want to say to you is that no matter what is in store for you for the rest of your lives, you should take this moment and proudly reflect on the individual journeys which have brought you, each of you, to being a graduate of Monroe Community College. You inspire me, you inspire those around in your lives, and you have taken a critical step in transforming your lives. For me, during the last 35 years, a single constant in my life has been my pride in having graduated from MCC. It does not only represent a place from which I've come, but it represents a great deal of who I am. You know, I Googled great graduation speeches to see if there was any good ideas out there, and basically there were a few that said, well, go out and find your way in the world and you are special. And then there are some that said, no, everybody else is special, never forget that. And then there was one that basically said, you are special, but remember, so is everyone else. I think that's pretty good, actually. And I guess the other thing that I would say is the question of what's ahead of you, what can you do? This is the responsive part of our show. And I want you and I want all of the people that are here supporting you to answer this question. What can you do now with your MCC degree? The answer is anything. What can you do? That wasn't very loud, I don't believe you. What can you do? Anything. That's right. Now I want to tell you a story. George Paz, the chairman of the company I work for, Express Scripts, is a man who has created thousands of jobs and built the 20th largest company in America. He grew up the son of poor Mexican immigrants living in poverty in East St. Louis, Missouri. His only college education is a 4-year degree from the University of Missouri in St. Louis, or what is called UMSL, which is generally regarded as a 4-year community college in St. Louis. Most kids don't grow up in St. Louis aspiring to go to UMSL. George's East St. Louis upbringing and his relationship with UMSL, the University of Missouri at St. Louis, are things people admire most about his story. Now, a year ago when I was named President and Chief Operating Officer at Express Scripts, much to my shock, the one thing that I wanted to be certain of was that the press release that was sent out would speak to my being a graduate of Monroe Community College. In fact, our head of public relations only recently told me that when my boss, George, was reviewing the press release and seeing my bio, he asked about that inclusion. When it was explained to him that I had said that if there was only room for one educational credential on my bio, it needed to be my associate's degree from MCC, I'm told that he paused for a moment and got a big grin, and George said, I get it. That's Tim's East St. Louis and UMSL story. Now, in saying that, George didn't mean that MCC was a poor beginning or was something I've had to overcome. Rather, he demonstrated that he clearly understood that I was proud of it and that it defined who I am in fundamental ways, much as University of Missouri at St. Louis does for him, and why he has not only philanthropically supported his college, but he has located our corporate headquarters on its campus as the only Fortune 500 company in America whose headquarters is on the campus of a university or college. George never forgot, and he was proud. And I love stories like George's because they're full of accomplishment, but more importantly, they are full of rich, clear principles. Principles which endure and serve to ground us when things around us are changing or are challenging. Now, very shortly after my promotion, my oldest daughter, Ashley, was expressing her pride in my success. And I shared 4 brief things with her that, upon reflection, I believe are the principles or the habits that have been most directly responsible for me, not only having had a pretty good career coming from a great school at MCC, but also whose consistent application, I believe, have directly and profoundly impacted the quality of my life. Let me briefly share them with you. The first is to always honor the person in front of you. When I share this principle, people often say, oh, that's the golden rule. And certainly the golden rule, which has an analog in nearly every major world religion, is an important concept. Whether the familiar Christian recitation of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or Buddhists who say hurt not others in a way that you yourself would find hurtful, or Islam in which Sunnah states, no one of you is a believer unless he desires for his brother that which he desires for himself. Religious teachings discuss the ethic of reciprocity, back and forth. However, what I'm talking about goes far beyond our external actions and speaks more to our way of being. It is good to apply the golden rule in our interactions with others, but it is not enough. I believe the foundation of living the principle of honoring the person in front of you involves finding gratitude and having it inform your way of being. To quote from the book Angels Among Us, life places people in different positions and circumstances. You and I, for example, may walk on very different ground. However, it is not the ground on which we walk that reveals our humanity, but our manner of walking upon it. Whether rich or poor, sick or well, disabled or whole, we either walk in gratitude or resentment. In all that I do, if I'm to invite gratitude rather than resentment, I must humbly acknowledge the most basic of truths, that being, I am no better and I deserve no more than the person who stands in front of me. Now, living this principle means understanding that there's always more to the story, that we don't always have to agree, but that much is gained when we truly try to understand each other. That the hotel maid, or the parking lot attendant, or the grocery store clerk in front of us have whole lives that we don't know. Stories we cannot imagine, and they deserve to be looked at in the eye when spoken to be respected not only for what they do, but for who they are. A core piece of all of this is having a deep respectfulness for others. Now, I will confess that once in a while I can take that a bit too far. I remember one time in 1992, Robin and I were at a very formal dinner with the Lord Mayor of London in the Guildhall in London. It was quite a scene. Here we were, two 32-year-old American kids, I think the only two Americans in this room, wanting to be deeply respectful of the pomp and the circumstance surrounding this dinner, which had been an annual event for nearly 500 years, older than our country. A ceremonial part of the evening involved passing what was called the loving cup, which worked its way down the table, with each guest first drinking from the cup as the guest to their right actually held the cup and poured it into their mouth. Then that guest would wipe the cup, you would bow or dip your knees to that person, take the cup, turn to your left, and then hold the cup for your neighbor, and so on. Well, as the cup came down our side of the table, the whole room was looking at us, and sitting right across from us was somebody whose first name was a Lord, and this guy was a knight. So they're all looking at us, and I'm very nervous, and I'm desperately wanting to respect this 500-year tradition. And those in the room for whom this principle or ritual was of many hundreds of years was very, very important. And so I took my drink, and Robin, who was holding the cup, dipped her knees and prepared to hand me the cup. And I was so focused and so wanting to be respectful that I actually did the same thing back to her. And I heard our distinguished but now shocked host utter the immortal phrase that the whole room heard, "Bloody hell, he just curtsied." But at least I did it respectfully. You know, having a way of being which is informed by respect, gratitude, and responsiveness to others, always honoring the person in front of you, dramatically improves the quality of your life and raises the batting average of your interactions, and can also help you look like, or avoid looking like an ugly American when you go to England. But to quote Dr. Martin Luther King, everybody can be great because everybody and anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of love, a grace, and a soul generated by love. Amen to Dr. King. My second principle, which is in some ways related to the first, and this is really important, find someone to love and deeply commit yourself to. While in my life that has been Robin, a fellow MCC graduate of 1980 class as I am, and my wife of 33 years, I'm not suggesting that you have to find a spouse. It could be a niece, it could be an aunt, it could be a grandmother, a neighbor, someone from your church, a dear friend. The important point is that no matter your path, there will be moments when you feel desperately alone. And when knowing that at least one other person is with you, is counting on you, believes in you, can make all the difference. In addition, having a relationship with another who knows us as well as we know ourselves, is willing to be honest with us, while at the same time loving us unconditionally, is a deeper level of human maturity and returns to us much more than we put into the relationship. This sort of commitment is about being supportive, affectionate, kind, caring, committed, responsive, loyal, sharing a sense of humor. You know, New Age pioneer Gary Zukav put it best when he said, when you deeply commit to a relationship with another human being, you begin to see that which is necessary for the health of your partnership is identical with what is necessary for your own spiritual growth. That each of you holds the piece that the other is missing. My wish for each of you is that you find at least one person in your life that you feel that strongly about and can commit deeply to. My third principle involves taking care of your body. This is not about becoming a fitness fanatic, but rather understanding that, as Walt Whitman said, if anything is sacred, the human body is sacred. The quality of your life will in many ways be directly related to being consciously aware of how you are treating your body. In fact, Tony Schwartz in his Energy Project has clearly stated his belief, and I believe he's right, that how we manage energy, ensuring periods of rest and recuperation, along with periods of high output, is the most important variable to long-term success. Get enough sleep, drink enough water, eat right more often than not. If you smoke, quit, rest, exercise, in whatever way works best for you. All of this is obvious when you hear it, but being as consistent as possible over the long haul will make a huge difference. It'll also give you the sustainable energy for my fourth principle, that in the long run, hard work may be the variable which makes the most difference. Here I will quote perhaps the most quotable 19th and 20th century figure on hard work, Thomas Edison, who among his many quotes about the importance of hard work said, "Opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed in overalls and it looks like work." Each of you are here today because you understand that direct connection and have taken the steps necessary to create opportunity in your lives that would never exist. Don't lose that drive. Don't lose that belief in yourself that causes you to get up and do the hard things, to do the necessary things, to do the not so sexy things that never are on the news, but in the long run will add up to a very different outcome in your lives. Lean into your work. As I tell new employees, be sure to clearly define the four corners of your job so that you can go far beyond them. Honor the person in front of you. Find another to commit your life to. Take care of your body. Never forget the importance of hard work. Four principles which have proven themselves over the very long haul to me. Now I want to close with a word about one other thing which I have not discussed. A thing which is assumed in all this, but which I want to call out. That is around the concept of integrity. It's a word we hear so much that we often don't really stop and think about its meaning. It is not something that we put on and take off like a coat, but rather it needs to inform our existence at an elemental level. You will have times in your life when you have the opportunity to go near the edge of what you know is right or over it. it will be all too easy to rationalize doing something that you would never choose to do with the clarity of hindsight or the benefit of thoughtful advice, but that somehow you can rationalize at the time. Simply put, stop. Ask yourself the hard questions and then do the right thing every time. Do the thing you would want your children or your parents or your grandparents or the whole world to see. Because ultimately, most of the time, the whole world will see it. And they won't be as kind to you as you might be to yourself. Plus, most importantly, you will know. You will know. And in doing the thing that is hard but is right, you will have honored the most important person in front of you, the person in the mirror. Thank you and congratulations to every one of you.